Simple narratives appeal to bigots, whether they are on the left or right politically or are of one religious persuasion or another. When they are narrow-minded, bigoted people, they want simple narratives to validate their bias. The complex history of Israel's majority population, Jews that originated in the Middle East, Asia, and Africa, where Jews experienced a long and difficult history of persecution, ethnic cleansing, and theft of their lands, property, and lives, is absent from the narratives of the bigoted. Everything that is claimed about the Arabs, now called Palestinian, are claims most Israeli Jews can make. These Jews were ethnically cleansed and driven from their lands, where they were forced to flee to Israel. The entire Middle East and North Africa, outside of Israel, where Jews once lived for thousands of years in some places and for centuries in others, are now Jew-free, with only a few tiny exceptions. Jews, whether they are the descendants of Holocaust survivors from Europe or are the descendants of Jews that lived throughout the Middle East, including what is now Israel, North Africa, and other parts of Africa and Asia, have a long history of being ethnically cleansed, having there be theft and occupation of their homes and lands, and having been massacred and persecuted. While bigots seek simplicity in order to disregard the legitimacy of Israel itself, there is nothing that they can claim in their false narratives about Israel that is not true about Arabs, Europeans, Americans, and many other people in the world. Billions of people live on lands violently stolen from indigenous people and that are now occupied. This includes lands throughout North America, South America, Central America, the Middle East, North Africa, and much of the rest of Africa, large parts of Asia, Australia, New Zealand, and more. Countless millions that can claim rights of return do not do so because time moves on. History is not stagnant, and only a cruel person and complete fool believes that time can be reversed by new ethnic cleansing and slaughter. Jews, Arabs, and others are stuck with one another on a small piece of land. Those that want them at each other's throats have sinister motives. The right to murder, to slaughter, and ethnically cleanse, no matter how this is disguised or presented, is the right of no one. October 7th was not liberation, resistance, or anything other than the murder, slaughter, rape, and kidnapping of defenseless people, including babies, children, the weak, and old. This conflict, this war, is kept alive by the evil belief that murder is a right, that murder is a legitimate form of resistance, whereas, in fact, murder is an evil that is the right of no one. War, including casualties of war, and murder are not the same. Hamas wanted this war. Hamas uses civilians as human shields to hide behind and beneath. Hamas built billion-dollar tunnels for themselves and not a single bomb shelter above ground for civilians. The only way for civilians not to be harmed by war is to not start wars and to not be one of the cheerleaders for war. Millions protest civilian casualties in Gaza but are silent for the far greater number of civilian casualties in wars not involving Israel. They pretend to care about the children and civilians of Gaza because they want to demonize Israel, while they cynically call for more war and phony violent resistance that causes the civilian casualties in the first place.